Rhomeyn, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and it was an automotive town. Still is, but not like it was. And I was an artistic kid, coming up. I did all the little school plays and in the glee clubs and all that kind of stuff. But I also was in the sports. And I left the business, the entertainment business, if you want to call it that, back in those days. I left it and got into sports. And I played baseball, Little League baseball, and then when I got to high school, I ran track and played a little football. But then when I went to college, I was totally into football and track. And I actually had a football and track scholarship. So I'm one of the few of my peers or people from that age that still don't owe student loans. I got problems with my body, of course, from injuries, but I don't owe anybody any money like that.
Yeah, that might be a better problem.
But yeah, Detroit was Detroit at that time was an interesting place because there was a lot of stuff. I was a kid, but the whole Motown thing and at one point Detroit was one of the foremost theater towns in the country, believe it or not. And a lot of the shows would start out in Detroit and go to Broadway or go wherever they were going to go, like out east or whatever. But Detroit was one of those places. And musically, Prince, one of his first places that he really started becoming famous and got off on was in Detroit. And he always talked about how Detroit was a special place for him, And I remember seeing Prince way back when he first started. I'm like, this guy's weird, but he's good. I mean, playing and singing. I'm like,
all those
boy,
instruments.
he's strange looking, little guy. And he was really good, So he kind of basically started in Detroit. So Detroit is coming back now, which is good. It's really coming back. I was there for the holidays and driving downtown and around different parts of Detroit. I was just amazed at how it's changed. Because, see, I went to Wayne State University in Detroit, which is in the heart of the city. And when I went, it was this modern, 35, 40,000 students college in the heart of the ghetto. I mean, it's completely surrounded by the ghetto. So you would be over here on this side of the street, you had college professors, and on the other side, you had crackheads. So it was like, okay, it's different. But it was interesting coming up in Detroit,
Were you pushed more towards sports, or because you probably saw a lot of people that you grew up with that maybe had a plan for what they were going to do after high school, and I know acting is always sort of, especially maybe where more of a masculine. I'm not saying it's not a masculine pursuit, but something that was considered more of what acceptable maybe at that time for a man to do.
Well, no, I always liked playing sports as a kid because I was just into it. I was the youngest of four, and I have three older sisters, and so that was something that I did. My father was very athletic. And I'll say to this day, my father was way ahead of his time. Had my father came up 20, 30 years later, he probably would have played professional baseball. I mean, my father was that athletic and that tremendous of an athlete. So I picked up a lot of my athletic talents from him. But sports was always I love sports. I was naturally into the arts. I mean, when I say the arts, I drew and painted. And I ended up having a minor in that in college. And my specialty in art was pastels and pencil. And people say, well, you don't do oil painting or that. I said, well, playing sports in college, to do oil painting, it takes time because you can't just do this and lay it on. You have to really be intricate. So in college, I was always on the road traveling or whatever. So in art, I had to do it in school, of course. But my best work was always, pastel and pencil, which was a little quicker to do. And coming up as a kid, I was in all of the after-school programs, because at that point, they used to have after-school programs for all of the kids that are gifted in art, music. They had all that kind of stuff, even though we had it in our school system at that time. And it's kind of unfortunate now, the way things are now, as you know, a lot of that's gone. We don't have a lot of those programs anymore because, they cut the school budgets and everything. And a lot of kids, I remember they used to have, in high school, they had orchestra 1, 2, and 3 and had all kind of choral groups and stuff in high school. So it was like gone. Now, also, another thing I was really into was carpentry and stuff, as far as shop class. I mean, and my mother was always afraid. She said, oh, he's going to end up being that. And being a carpenter or being a person in a trade right now you can make a ton of money. And they're bringing that back now. And they're finding that, a lot of the people that went to college or wanted to go to college that didn't quite make it were more mechanically inclined as opposed to being college preparatory inclined. Okay, I happen to be, I think, both. But, matter of fact, I'll say this and I brag about it. I made my own voiceover booth for my voiceover work I do as an actor.
Oh, wow.
And I bought some plans. And when people see this that know me well, they're going to be like, oh, here you go, he's launching into that. Because I'm always talking about that stuff, And they say, stop bragging. I say, but I bought plans online for this thing. And once I bought the plans, I sat back and said, oh, I got so excited. I went out and got all this equipment and everything. And I got stuff, it gave you a list of things to get, like the panels and the sound absorption stuff for the walls to keep the sound out. I got the 2x4s. I got all this stuff to make a 4 by 6 foot or 7 foot booth, which you record in. And once I bought the stuff, I had it in my living room in my apartment, and I sat there and I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with all this shit in here. And I mean, my girlfriend came by and says, why in the world would you do this? I'm like, I bought these plans and it'll work, and all my friends and all the guys would come by and everybody would laugh at me. It was like when Noah, Noah built the ark, how everybody was partying and laughing at him because he was out there building the ark and everything. That was what was kind of me. Everybody come by and laugh. And I called my mother up. My mother, I said, Ma, I don't know why I did that. She says, what you need to do is you need to start at the beginning of the plans. Start from the first part of the plans and take it step by step. Now, this is my mother telling me this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they give you a DVD, and I watched the DVD about 100 times. I'm like, okay. And she said, you were good in shop. You got straight A's in that stuff. You can do it. So I started building this thing. You always start with the foundation. As we know, the foundation is where we start in everything. Whatever you do, you always have to start where? At the beginning. And it's always the foundation. As an actor, as a film person, like yourself, you have to start at the beginning and start, okay, I have to start learning from the beginning. So I did that and I built the booth, and I had everybody was shocked. They were like, you actually built this damn thing. And I was more shocked than them. I said, oh, yeah, I knew what I was doing. I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, I actually built it. And I mean, it's a full booth, and I do professional work out of the booth.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean,
that's really
I done
cool.
deviated from where we started, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that, as a person in the arts, that's how I got started in the business. That's how I ended up branching into this, and I couldn't do anything else. I got fired from every real job I've had.